Okay, factoring quadratic expressions. So factoring is the process of separating a polynomial back into a product. Now the simplest form, that would be like 4a squared plus 8a. The factored form would be 4a times a plus 2. And polynomials that can't be factored are called prime. So there's several ways to do this. Those are the steps if you need the steps. The biggest thing is to just check if there's a GCF. So let's look at A. We have 3x squared plus 12. The GCF there is 3, because 3 goes into 3x and 3 goes into 12. So I'm going to divide that out, and you get 3 times x plus 4. Then the last thing we need to do is check. So 3 times x plus 4 is 3x plus 12, which is what we started with, so we're good. Look at C. There isn't a GCF between 5x and negative 13y, so that is prime. Look at E. The GCF there is 2y squared. So we can divide that out.
Could you call the main office at 664?
Oh, sorry. So we can divide that out. So we divide out 2y squared, and you get 3y squared minus 7y minus 5. Double check by distributing, and you get the same thing, so we're good. You can do B, D, and F. There's the answers to those ones. Okay, now factoring a trinomial in the form of x squared plus bx plus c. You must find two integers that multiply to be c, so multiply to be the constant, and add or subtract to be b. So let's look at our example. We have x squared plus 7x plus 12. We have to find two integers that have a product, so they multiply to be 12, and they add or subtract to be 7. So I'm going to write down my factors of 12. So I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Now, all of those will multiply to be 12, but only one pair will add to be 7, and that's 3 and 4. So to write those two binomials, it's just going to be x plus 3, x plus 4. Pretty straightforward. And you can double check that by distributing, and you do get x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, let's do another example. So we have a squared plus 6a minus 16. We're going to write out the factors of 16. So that'd be 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. And it has to add or subtract to be 6. That's going to be 2 and 8. And it's going to be positive 8 and negative 2. Because positive 8 times negative 2 gives me negative 16. Positive 8 minus 2 gives me 6. So that's going to be a plus 8, a minus 2. Okay, this one, we're going to write out the factors of 40. So we have 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. It has to add to be 13. So that's going to be 5 and 8. So that's going to be y plus 5, y plus 8. This last one, 30. We have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Has to add or subtract to be 1, negative 1. So that's going to be positive 5 and negative 6. 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. 5 minus 6 is negative 1. So that becomes n plus 5 and minus 6. Okay, you do TV and X, and those are the answers, so you can double check those. Okay. Oops. Now, steps for factoring difference of squares. First, you have to make sure that they're actually difference of squares. There must be a subtraction sign in between, and you have to be able to square root both terms. And then we use the rule to factor them. So a squared minus b squared is a minus b, a plus b. And then the last step is always check your work. So let's look at m. A squared equals a squared. B squared equals 4. Square root both sides, so you get a equals a, b equals 2. So that's going to be a minus 2, a plus 2. Okay, we can double check, and you do get a squared minus 4. We look at n, that is not a subtraction sign, so it's prime. There is a way to factor that, but we have to use i's, and we'll get to that later. So if we look at O, a is 1, b is 49y squared. Square root both sides, a equals 1, b equals 7y. So that's 1 minus 7y, 1 plus 7y. Check it, and you do get 1 minus 49y squared. Okay, you can do the rest of those ones. There's the answers to double check that you're doing it right. Now these ones, we just have to factor it completely. We might use GCF, we might use greatest common, or GCF, or the trinomial thing, or difference of squares. So let's look at this first one. We're going to divide out the 2 because that's my GCF. And I'm left with n squared minus 36. Now n squared minus 36, that's the difference of squares. So that factors again to n, or 2, and n minus 6, n plus 6. Let's look at v. We can factor out an 8y, and I'm left with x squared minus 4y squared. Again, difference of squares inside there. So you get 8y, x minus 2y, x plus 2y. For w, I'm going to take out the 4k, and I'm left with 4k squared plus 25. And that is as far as I can factor that one because of the plus sign. Now you can do the rest of those. There's those answers. Okay, let's look at these ones. Remember, we always check GCF first. So I'm going to take out the 4, and I'm left with k squared plus 3k plus 2. We have to see what multiplies to be 2 and adds to be 3. It's only 1 and 2. So that becomes 4, k plus 1, k plus 2. We do BB. I'm going to take out the 3a, so I'm left with a squared plus 10a plus 21. See what multiplies to be 21 and adds to be 10. That's 3 and 7. Leave the GCF there, so that's 3a, a plus 3, a plus 7. And then this last one. So we're going to take out the 5y, and we're left with x squared minus 3x minus 28. See what multiplies to be 28 and adds or subtracts to be negative 3. That's 4 and negative 7. So that's going to be 5y, x plus 4, x minus 7. You can do the rest of those. There are those answers. Thanks for watching. Remember to take the quiz.